We're live.
We're live. Oh my gosh, guys, we're live.
Woo!
Well,
Hey,
everybody, welcome to Hobby Vomit. My name is Ian, and we have Matt, and we have
Woo!
Josh. Normally I would point, but actually for this one I don't remember
I think
where
you nailed it.
everybody is.
I'm beneath you.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, not really, but for the video maybe so. Well, I guess one of us has to be the de facto emperor, right? Because we are now doing Sun Eater, and presumably the grand emperor of the entire story is the narrator. So I guess I'm playing a little bit of that role today. But yeah, but welcome everybody to Hobby Vomit. So great to have everybody here checking this one out. We've done several book series before, but just kind of a heads up for those of you who are kind of new to this whole setup. Again, if you're a veteran who's coming to join us, that is amazing. If you're somebody who's reading Sun Eater for the very first time, that's also awesome. This is just a way for us to be able to further enjoy the books that we're reading by discussing them together as friends and just kind of overall gushing about what's going on. So what we're going to be doing here with Sun Eater is we are going to be breaking up the book into 4 parts. We are kind of taking our best guess as to where those breaks should be. But so far, it's actually gone really well. It felt like, for example, we ended this one just after, I think we ended with chapter 21 of the book, which felt perfect. And as we go through our discussion of each part, we will be talking major spoilers on each part. So if you've not read chapters 1 through 21, definitely go and read that and then come back to this video. Now, we won't be spoiling anything beyond that because we've not read anything beyond chapter 21, so we don't know. And then the next part, we'll list out the chapters for you. And maybe at the end, I think, Matt, you have the list. Maybe at the end, we can mention what chapters we're going to be doing next so that people know what chapters we'll be looking at. And so, but yeah. So again, if you haven't read those chapters yet, please go read them and then come on back. And so, yeah. Now, during each video, we'll kind of begin with sort of an announcement of our, hey, look, spoilers. And then we'll kind of go into a recap of the previous part. Not this time, because this is our very first video for Sun Eater. And then we'll kind of get into it with a high-level overview and then sort of our thoughts. But Matt had a really awesome suggestion. With each new book, we kind of have different reading experiences. So we wanted to kind of start this one off, since we don't have a recap, with kind of how we're reading it. So I'll kind of go ahead and begin. I am reading this, not reading this. I'm exclusively listening to this on Audible because I wanted to, I found out they're doing a hardcover, which is coming out in November. And so I wanted to order that. And so I picked that one up. And then I noticed that there was a deal for the Kindle and Audible where you could get them really cheap. And so I picked this up and I've pretty much been exclusively listening to it. So yeah.
Nice.
What about you guys?
Jonesy?
yeah, so after going through the Dark Tower series and realizing I needed to focus even more than I may have traditionally in the past with listening on Audible, I bought the physical book. I have it on Audible, and so I listen to it while I read along like a toddler, which has been a really good experience for
It's
me.
been like there's been a huge resurgence of that. It's called immersion reading. But honestly, I do it too, and it's awesome. But I am not doing it for this one. I'm just doing just the physical book. I'm reading it with my girlfriend Bree. We're breeding it, as we like to call it, TM. So I'm reading it out loud to Bree. So
Very cool.
yeah, I've got some pretty cool voices. Hadrian, I'm like, hey, it's me, Hadrian. Just kidding, I don't do that. But so yeah,
Can
just
you
doing.
start though? Can you please start doing it that way?
Hey, I got daddy
Just
issues.
surprised Brie with
Daddy
that.
hates me.
How long will it take Brie before she just drops the series entirely?
Yeah. She's like, I don't know, something about it. It's just, it's not you. It's not you. It's me. I'm like, all right, yeah, okay. But yeah, so we got exclusively Audible, we got immersion reading, and we got breeding. And so, let's real quick also just talk about how much sci-fi have you read, what's your experience with reading. So I'll kick us off. So sci-fi, I've read very little. I've read like Project Hail Mary, and I just finished up Hyperion. So pretty new to the space, but this is really my first like series, I think, that is sci-fi. So I've had some mixed experiences with like the hard science versus soft science and all that. But been reading for a little over a year for enjoyment. But yeah, this is my first big sci-fi series. Let's go backwards. So
Yeah.
Jonesy.
Jonesy.
Yeah.
Playing the Uno reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were making me think there. So yeah, probably comparatively to other readers, not too much, but I've read Project Hail Mary. I've also done his other two, Martian and Artemis, I think is the other one. I've done Dune, Dune Messiah. I personally chose to not continue the series, so there might be some folks that are disappointed in my choice of that. Um, I've done a couple Star Wars books over the years, and then the other series that I started but I didn't continue, and I definitely want to go back to it is Three Body Problem.
Mm.
I would say that's probably it was an interesting read, but it's the most memorable to me of all the sci-fi books that I've read. That and Project Hail Mary.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one I really want to read as well because I've heard a lot of people say that if you enjoyed the show, then you definitely like need to read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, sci-fi has mostly come through film and through game. As far as reading goes, I've read the first few Dunes. I personally am just fine with that. I've read about the other ones. I think it just gets a little bit off, like a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And that's really, I mean, the first Dune is just so good. And I've actually read, I think I've read more RPGs in that space because I've
Mm.
read like Android and Starfinder and things like that and like gotten immersed in their world. But other than just for just novels, it's pretty much just Dune. And then when I was in high school, I read the Halo series and I read Star Wars books.
Nice.
And so
Oh
those
man,
were, yeah. And if you've
forgot
never
about the Halo
read
books.
the Halo books, were actually like in high school, those things were awesome.
They were super fun. I forgot I
Yeah,
had gone through those too.
yeah. The first Halo book especially was just really really cool. And it actually had a bit more depth to it. The other ones not so much, but they were great for high school. They were like young sci-fi, you know.
I don't
But
remember the
that's pretty much
content
it.
very much, but I just
Yeah.
remember like being obsessed with the game, playing
Mhm.
LAN parties with folks, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
being like, "Whoa, there's a book," and it just
Yeah.
feeling like this fun, immersive experience.
There's a lot of books, and I'm pretty sure I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure I've read every Halo book.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Because there are a lot. There's like 7 or 8 of them that take place over 2 separate groups in their storylines, and but they're actually like for young adult sci-fi, they're great. They're absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Our Halo scholar up
Hmm.
here.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Well, sweet. Yeah, let's jump into our first video. So, like as Ian said, this is spoilers for the first Sun Eater book called The Empire, just Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio, chapters 1 through 21. None of us have read this before, so if you do want to follow along or comment, just be mindful of that. Please don't comment anything up beyond chapter 21. We'll do that in the next video, and yeah, I think that is it. So let's kick it off with the high-level overview of the part. And yeah, so in part 1, or unofficial part 1, Hadrian, our main character, Hadrian Marlowe, kind of gains his purpose and leaves/escapes his home. And yeah, short and sweet, baby. I'm keeping
beautiful.
it short and I'm keeping it sweet so we can talk details. So yeah.
And so one thing to kind of stack on that, because this kind of goes together with the high level overview and the previous experience, but I'm pretty sure this is my first framed narrative, is what my wife was telling me this is called when it's kind of framed as like someone has found this book that's like telling the story. And so, but it's also, at least at this point, meant to be understood that Hadrian is the narrator.
Yeah, it's like a first person past tense. Yeah, which is an interesting writing style. I've had mixed experiences with that framed narrative. But yeah, it just kicks off with him telling us, the reader, talking to us directly, and it's just like, yeah, I destroyed a sun. So he just tells us basically, I don't know if that's how the series is gonna end. It seems like kinda. He's just kind of telling us like this is where we're gonna end up way down the line, which is also a really interesting method of storytelling. It's just like here's the end.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
It's like King-esque, just
Yeah.
dropping little spoiler bombs on.
Hadrian Marlowe put on his pants for the
Yeah.
last time.
Exactly.
Well, and like the titles that he riddles off are great. Like there was one of the titles was called the Half Mortal. I'm like, what is the? I'm like that could go either way, you know? Like
Yeah.
Half Mortal.
Well,
I'm pretty
that
sure it's a good title, but
it is interesting because at some point throughout this, when he breaks off and is talking to the audience again, he talks about how the Cielsen basically become like slaves to humanity at some point.
yeah, thralls.
Yeah, thralls. And so like it does seem like maybe he's going to be working with them at some point, and I do wonder if he's going to get some like modifications to where that's why they call him half mortal, or just him working for them is going to be what
Yeah.
gains him
Well,
that
and
title.
he lists a Cielsen title, like the Cielsen have a name for him, and he knows that name. And so that I thought when I first heard that, I was like, "Ooh, that's really interesting." Like, does he fight with this Cielsen? Like, does that happen? And
Yeah.
does he like end up playing both sides? Like, does he like form a new empire, like leading an army of Cielsen, where they like then become like enslaved or thralls or whatnot? It's like, ooh, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to kick it off before we get too much into plot. Just general thoughts overall. What did you enjoy it? Yeah. What was your reading experience like for part one? If anyone wants to
Yeah.
kick it off, go ahead.
You want to kick it off, Josh?
Sure. So yeah, I feel like Matt and I have had a chance a few times to just kind of mention the series. Just kind of looked it up online, and I feel like the consensus I kind of got from, without deep diving too much because I didn't want to find spoilers, was just folks felt that this book was slower and might be harder to get through. I even heard someone say they were struggling with the prose. So far, I haven't found myself struggling or disappointed, or yeah, I've found myself excited to pick it up and going at a much faster pace than I probably normally do with books. So I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying the story. It does give off Dune vibes, but I don't think it gives it off too much where I'm like, oh, this just kind of feels like a rewrite. It doesn't feel like that at all to me. It feels like a cool, new, unique story and world that we're jumping into, and I'm excited to keep going.
Nice. How about you, Ian?
Kind of the same thing. It's like almost forming a pattern now. If like the internet tells me that the first book is just something I have to get through, but then it just only gets better, that just is probably a great series.
Excellent.
Because I loved Gardens of the Moon for Malazan, and I've been really enjoying this one. Now, kind of echoing what some of Jonesy mentioned about it being possibly slower. I can definitely see that. I mean, I'm listening to Audible, and I can definitely see how there are certainly parts where you could kind of just glaze through it in a way, because you can get the gist. There were definitely several scenes where I was like, I can get the gist of this without needing the specific details of the dialogue. And I think a lot of that probably just comes down to when Hadrian interacts with his father, Alistair. I think those were pretty much, I think almost every single one of those scenes, you pretty much have the gist of it without even listening to the dialogue between them. It felt like the other dialogues were much more interesting and much more impactful for the actual story. Not that those were not like necessary, so to speak, but just like I could definitely see where people are saying it's like slower because but yeah, we'll talk about characters a little bit later. But overall, it's been really awesome. I mean, I was a huge fan of the first book of Dune, and I don't mind at all. This is giving off a lot of Dune vibes. There is certainly to a point where I was wondering for a while like how this book is going to differentiate themselves, because especially for the first several chapters, it is like very Dune. I mean,
Yeah.
the technology, the Scolius, the setup with like the machines from the past who became AI, like it's very Dune. But I mean, in some sense, it's like a homage to Dune in the same way that like Christopher Paolini's Inheritance cycle is like an homage to Lord of the Rings. But I think that this book, especially in its plot, is differentiating itself, and I'm very excited to see like where this goes.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm also really enjoying it. I am a little surprised that it has the reputation that it does of like you just got to get through book one. You just got to get through book one. I'm like I'm super enjoying it. I mean, like both of you said, I do think it's slow, but to me, slow is never bad. Like you can be slow and great, and I think this is slow and great. I'm just intrigued by the politics and the world building. I think Christopher Ruoccio's prose is it's not the easiest thing to read, but I think it's captivating for me. And yeah, I have not read Dune. I think I'm the only one of the three of us that has not read Dune. So this is like fresh for me. I mean, I think having read Hyperion, it does seem like there's maybe just like sci-fi staples or tropes, just like there are fantasy tropes with like the farm boy or whatever. I think there are probably tropes here, but I've heard people say book 2 starts to really differentiate itself from Dune, and since I haven't read Dune, I'm just in for the ride. And yeah, I thought it was a great part 1. I'm itching to keep going, but yeah, so good all around. Thumbs up. We're not ending the series.
Yeah. So,
This is our last video for Sun Eater. Thanks for
we're
watching.
hyping everybody up so we can get him with we had a DNF. We
Yeah.
got to get one of those clickbait titles.
So I'm curious what you guys think of Hadrian. Hadrian's our main character, and I had heard this is a very popular series on BookTube. So I've watched some just people talking about it, not about what happens, just about like it in general. And one thing that gets brought up along with the Dune thing and along with the book 1's the worst, you just got to get through it, is that Hadrian is a whiny little bitch. And I got to say, he definitely is. But I don't hate it. But there are times where I'm like, he's just like, woe is me. Like, he's very dramatic, but I'm enjoying reading that. But I could see how it would put somebody off, him as a main character. So I'm curious what you guys think of him so far.
I don't find him whiny. So I think I really appreciate the first chapter or the first jumping into this book of it being obviously I don't know how many years from where we start out and in the story, but I think it makes it more interesting to know that he's definitely not how he started out. But I like seeing how he started out because I think if it had just started with that, I think I would have been like, it just feels a little tropey. Like there's one brother in this like shitty family that believes in good. I don't really know why he does, but he does, and he's trying to. It's like I feel like if it was just that, I'd be a little more on the story. But since I know there's some interesting twists coming to who he becomes, I feel like it's making me more interested in finding out. Okay, this is what he's like, and how the heck does he end up being called the Sun Eater, right? So that's kind of how I feel about him right now. I'm enjoying his journey so far, and I mean, both of his parents suck, and his brother's not that great. So, I mean, he's doing the best with what he's got. He's a spoiled royal brat, so it's kind of hard to not be whiny, I guess, if that's your upbringing.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of going along with like the idea of his upbringing. I mean, I think it is. You kind of need to put yourselves in that perspective of like this guy is 20 years old. He's effectively a genetic clone. Like if anybody's seen the Foundation, like he's effectively a genetic clone. I know he's not really because he is bred like just without all the fun parts that lead up to that. But effectively a genetic clone, and he's essentially lived 20 years in a castle, being pampered, but unable to leave, unable to do anything of his own. So much so that his younger brother would literally like almost like throw himself out a window just to go get conscripted into the into the Inquisitors, like to be locked into a monk's cell. He would like throw himself out of a window just because that would be on a different planet. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's like very much meant to represent like they are, for lack of a better analogy, they are princesses in the tower of a castle. Like they are locked there with essentially nothing to do. And that's been their entire experience for their entire life. So it kind of makes sense that they are completely like ignorant of just how to behave in a normal social context.
Yep.
But also like in terms of him being whiny, yeah, he is whiny, but we got to start with something.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I felt in like kind of going to Jonesy's point is like, yeah, he's here. He's got a lot to work on. Right. But we got to start somewhere. And like, I'm excited. I'm interested to see like how he develops. Right. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the story, at least for me so far, is it's It's about him getting out and like developing on his own outside of the context of his family.
Yep. He'll even butt in sometimes
Hmm.
and say like, "Yeah, I probably should have like, you know." The part that I
Sure.
think of the most is when Crispin goes. They go
Hmm.
to their mom's estate, and he's like, "Yeah, looking back, he probably just wanted to like see his brother one last time."
Yep.
And instead Hadrian's just playing the victim and
Hmm.
fighting with them and stuff. So yeah, he's clearly grown, which is nice. And yeah, I think it will be nice to see that. But I could see it. I just think it's written really well because it's, to me, it is whiny, but it's still just captivating, and I'm intrigued to see that growth. Like I want to see him make those changes and stuff. So I think he's just really. I think he's really well written. I think he's definitely the most well written. I do find myself wishing I got a little bit more of some of the other characters. I think they're a little one note, the side characters so far. But I think Hadrian's really fleshed out, which is nice. But yeah, should we talk plot? What
Yeah.
happens? So it
Let's
throws
do
us
it.
right in. It does not. It throws us in to with like Hadrian is with basically his scoliest, one of his tutors or mentors, Tor Gibson, and Tor Gibson's about to tell him something important when Crispin and their dueling teacher, I think it's Felix
Yep.
is
Yeah.
they
Vincent
come
Tudor.
in and interrupt, and basically that's the first time Hadrian and Crispin duel,
Yeah.
duel, and now do either of you remember they both have a weakness that Sir Felix calls out?
Hmm.
Mm,
Do you remember what
I
they
don't.
are? Because I don't.
Yeah. So
But I feel
know.
like they
I
were going to be
remember-
important.
Yeah. With Hadrian, I'm pretty sure it's Hadrian. He hesitates, so he specifically will not. He doesn't deal that like final blow.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Crispin, I thought it was that he would like always leave, and he would always like leave a weak spot on
Like
his backside,
sloppy
right?
or something,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was sloppy in his form, and that's what. And so it was like very much. So I also kind of interpreted it a little bit differently too, which is like the way I interpreted it was like Crispin was very like cocky, and that's why he would very much rely on his strength, which is ultimately what loses him many fights. But also, to be fair, is very good for him like in the Colosseo, but he's also like learning and stuff. But like Hadrian, it almost feels like he's intentionally doing it because he doesn't appreciate those lessons as much as he appreciates his lessons with Gibson.
Yeah.
But also he's like toying with his brother in a way. He like wants to like poke and prod at his brother. And I think that's like part of what's so infuriating to the fencing tutor is he's just like not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me at least.
And Crispin's he's a younger brother by a few years, but much bigger than Hadrian already.
Yeah.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's described as like almost a full head taller, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after the duel, Gibson and Hadrian meet up somewhere else, I think. And basically that's when Gibson tells him like what is happening. Something important has happened, which is that the Wong Hopper Consortium are coming to visit, because we then find out that Kai Shen, the major uranium mining colony or whatever we want to call it, has been destroyed. And so Gibson tells Hadrian that they're coming to discuss with his father because they are the second highest producing uranium colony or whatever you want to call it again. But now they are the first, and Hadrian is just now finding this out for the very first time through Gibson. And not only that, but he's finding out that Crispin knows. And this is kind of when we get the first little inkling of Hadrian intuiting or assuming or believing that he is no longer going to be the rightful heir, which is normally passed down to the oldest, but that he thinks Daddy is going to give it to Crispin instead.
Yep.
So some turmoil right from the beginning.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add too, because we'll talk about this more, but I think there is open for interpretation because it hasn't been outlined by the narrator yet. But it seems to me, at least my interpretation of it, is that the plans that we're going to see from Alistair, Hadrian's father, are already in motion, and that him wanting to like the things that we'll see happen later with him like trying to send Hadrian away, those are not a reaction to things like what happens with Hadrian and him being ambushed, for example. They're not punishments, and it's not like a matter of him not wanting Adrian to be the heir, so to speak, or Hadrian to be the heir. But to me, like once I realized like what he was trying to do, like send Hadrian away, like join in the Inquisition, it seemed to me to like be the thread that tied all the way back. That like this has been the plan from the beginning, which is like, well, then obviously Hadrian can't be the heir because it would literally take him, 11 years to get there, several years to study, several years in the Inquisition, another 11 years to get back if he came back. Like it just, like there needs to be a sitting heir during that time.
Yeah.
Um,
And Crispin
and
is
yeah,
not the sharpest tool in the shed, it seems like. So yeah, it does seem like it's Alistair's like power play is I'm going to spread our power into the Chantry, because we find out there is a lot of power and influence in the Chantry, and so he wants to position someone in there, which I'm curious. So I think reading up to this for most of this part, it really feels like Alistair is like powerful, but when you kind
He
of
is
zoom
now.
out, he's kind of still a bit of a little guy in the large scheme of things, because there's like Vizarines above him, and then there's the Emperor above him, and he's really just like the lord of a city on a planet.
Yeah.
But they paint. I think that's what's part of the writing is so good, is like from Hadrian's point of view at that time. I think he paints him as like he's a big bad, not, or just like he's a big guy on campus, but really he's actually just like, I think, trying to make those power plays to grow in his power, because he's not as powerful as maybe we're led to believe up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it seems like the I guess the vicereign or whatever the term they use for that is, that kind of like rules over the planet, I believe. Like that's his mother-in-law, right?
Yep.
And so, but she kind of delegates a lot to him. So I think you have kind of interesting dynamic where he's like married into more authority and being given a lot of reign simply because of the logistics of space travel and it taking so much time. And so so there's like this interesting paradox in a way with his authority, which is fun, I think.
Jonesy, what do you think about Daddy? Lord Daddy.
I like what you brought up. I hadn't thought about like, yeah, I feel like since we're seeing it from Hadrian's point of view, I've just kind of been like, wow, he's scary, he's powerful. But yeah, good point that there's a much bigger universe out there. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like so far Dad is kind of one-dimensional, like not anything too interesting or surprising. Like every interaction kind of plays out the way that you're expecting, right? Um, so be interesting to see if that changes at all. And yeah, if Hadrian and him ever meet again. It seems like him and his brother don't ever meet again from some of the narrative that we got, but I'm not sure we've picked up on that with his dad and his relationship. So, yeah, I think I'm more interested in what it looks like for them in the future than kind of what we've learned about him so far.
Yeah. Well, we know he's got a big old hot temper, because Adrian tells the story of like, didn't someone like basically just like talk shit, and he was like, oh hell no, and he like sends an army to like kill all of them or something. He like
I
does
can't remember if
something
he did
horrible.
or he was saying when he was talking to that factory worker or whoever she was that if his dad was here, he would do that. So I'm guessing he's using like previous examples to like know that that's how he would react.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the like the attack where they wiped everybody out, like his family was attacked. And then the way he escalated was he like literally genocided them.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
just
yeah.
talking shit, but it
No,
was
it was,
like,
yeah, yeah, it was like, but he's been known to like throw like, like disappear people, like throw dock workers on their asses, and like strong arm and extort. Like he definitely operates like a crime boss. I mean,
yeah.
basically.
Well, what are those? They're not pillars, but the like rule by fear. That was like the top one or whatever.
Yeah, the laws of obedience.
Yeah.
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 And he definitely has fear as his top one.
Yep.
Um, But I actually, so yeah, we can talk about. So afterwards, Lord Alistair sends Hadrian instead to meet with the Wong Hopper Consortium in that important meeting. He sends him to go deal with the mining guild from the planet because they're having some problems. And Hadrian's all like, "What the hell? Why am I doing this shit when like the important stuff's happening?" But this is also important because he meets with, it's like Lena Bellum or something like that. That's what I called her, and she's saying that like their machinery is outdated, people are getting trapped, and I can't remember if she said people have died. I think they've actually died.
Okay, people are dying
Just
'cause
like
they don't have the right
terrible
equipment.
working conditions, like
Terrible working
classic,
conditions.
like the top just wants to make every dollar they can. They don't
Yep.
care about the life of the workers.
Yeah, it's basically Lethal Company,
Yeah, yeah.
but
And so afterwards, I think after this, he basically says like, "I'll bring." He doesn't react like the way his dad would. He's just like, "I'll bring it up with my dad. Like, I'll take it to the Lord." And so then he meets with his mom for the first time. I think this is the first time we see mom, and they kind of talk a little bit. And she's kind of also on board, saying like, "Yeah, I think Crispin's about to be the heir," which is interesting. I actually really like the mom, Lady Liliana, because I mean, from the beginning, we're told it's a loveless marriage. She's not even into men; she's into women. But they are, yeah, it's a very political marriage. But it does seem like she loves Hadrian, at least. I don't know about Crispin so much. At some point, doesn't she tell Hadrian like, "You're my favorite"? I think she
Yeah.
does, right? Like, straight up, just tells him, "You're my favorite," in front of Crispin's unconscious body. Who knows if he was actually coming to or not? Imagine like getting decked by your brother, coming to, and the first thing you hear is your mom telling your brother, "You're my
Yeah.
favorite."
I'm just gonna go back to sleep.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the first time we meet Lady Liliana, which I found to be really interesting. And then no, snap, sorry, I opened up the wrong program instead of my notes. Yes, and if you want to take it.
yeah, well, and then Hadrian bursts into the meeting.
There we go.
He like literally he gets stopped by the guards who are explicitly told like no one can enter, which includes him, and which is actually I think also a very important element because which is to be expected, but it does show that there is this tension, right? That like even if he is a presumed heir, he is not his father, and it's like very well understood amongst even the guard, right? That there is a difference in authority there, which there should be. Like he's the son, not the lord, right? But yeah, he ends up like seeing past one of the guards basically before the guard could stop him, and just like throws the doors open with such like violent force. I'm kind of exaggerating a bit, but essentially makes such a scene that the guards can't pull him away now.
Yeah.
Right. And so he gets to go into the meeting. Crispin, of course, is there, which is like kind of, you know, further driving in this nail that Crispin is going to be the presumed heir. And then the consortium's like, "What's going on?" And Alistair's like, "This is my eldest son." And it sort of smooths things over a little bit, and they kind of continue on with the meeting. And
Well,
we
he
find
like
out
takes a
that
chair too, and is like, he takes a chair from
there's
down below, and he
like
like
Crispin won't move, and so yeah, he
yeah,
takes a chair.
slams
You
up on
know,
the dais.
you almost imagine it like dragging it and just hearing the
I was
scream.
thinking of
Yeah,
the scene from Men in Black where he
yeah,
drags the table to take the
yeah,
test so he
Yeah,
doesn't have to write in his lap.
it's so
I'm also
yeah,
dramatic.
imagining Crispin with like a notepad and he's like
yeah,
playing tic-tac-toe by
yeah,
himself.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's
Well, I think
drawing.
doesn't
He's
he
drawing
like
the cool S. That's what he's doing.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't he have like a gamepad? Because like we had this like
Yeah.
interesting conversation with the mining the mining guild representative where like Hadrian makes a kind of explicit point because part of the whole conversation was kind of give us some insight into like what the chantry is all about and like how the worlds work. And so we find out like something kind of really important about this universe, which is that the way that the chantry and the consort, like the whole empire rules, is that they give people technology, but they deprive them of all knowledge of how to actually operate that technology. And like they even go so far as to deprive people of the things that help them produce knowledge. So like even to the extent that like they can't have like video games because like that might help them learn things,
Mm.
right? It's just like they can't have it. But yeah, and then like Crispin's just playing video games on his iPad, just like
He's an iPad kid.
yeah,
He's probably on his stomach and doing the iPad kid cough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I assume Apple will still exist at this point or something. I don't know.
Oh my god,
Probably.
yeah. Jeff Bezos is the emperor.
Yeah,
No.
With his head in the jar like Futurama.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so we kind of get,
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, some insight to like, I think this is really the first time we, other than when Hadrian's talking to us in the very beginning, which I don't know if you guys had this experience, but for me, it's like page one. He's just like, by the way, here's all this shit I did, and here's all my names, and here's what's going on in the universe. Let's get into the story. And I'm just like, I read it, but it's going to be something I'm going to go probably back and reference
Mhm.
because I'm like,
Yeah.
there's so much that just went, whew. So this was really the first
Yeah.
time we hear talk of the Cielsen and how they are the mortal enemy of the Empire. And yeah, I mean, gosh, his dad's such a dick because he's just like he's studied Cielsen. He knows some Cielsen. He knows a lot of languages. He really is like wanting to be a well learned person, and they're talking about the Cielsen and how they're going to exterminate them, and he's like, oh, can't exterminate them per se because they're not all on planets. They're space. You know, they can travel wherever. So like you'll never exterminate all of them. And the dad's just like, you better watch your tongue because that that's treasonous talk right there.
Yeah.
That's treasonous tongue. I'm like, geez, give this kid a break. Like he's just like using his knowledge. Like I don't know. To me that part felt very like out of line. I mean, a lot of the things that the dad does is out of line. But I don't know what he's trying to teach Hadrian in that moment or what power move he's trying to. If he's trying to impress, I think her name's like Adaze Fang, the leader of the Wong Harper Consort. Like, what's the point of that?
So I think that for me, and granted, this might be coming from having read Dune, and I don't know if Jonesy, like if you had this reaction as well, but in Dune, the Emperor has his own personal guard. And like if you watch the movies, like this is the guard that shows up to exterminate like Atreides' family, which is how like Paul Atreides, for example,
Oh,
knows that it was all set up. Sorry,
spoilers.
spoilers. It's been out for like 40 years. Okay, so anyway, not the movies. They were recent, but yeah, Chalamet did a great job. Anyway, um, the point there being is it seemed to me that the Inquisition essentially is serving that role in this story where like the purpose of the Inquisition is also to keep the lords in check. And so like if somebody were to be breaking the rules who was like a lord, then the Inquisition would be sent in to deal with that family and potentially take them out, which is like also part of the reason why Alistair wants his son to be like in the Inquisition, because if you were a lord trying to kind of skirt the law, so to speak, then you would want
Someone on the
somebody who could
inside.
let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
But if
sense.
that's the case, then like a lord like going against the tenets of their quote quote faith, like would be tantamount to treason, and that would be tantamount to like having your entire family exterminated.
Mm,
It's like that. I'm speculating
yeah.
because they don't really go into it in that much detail, but there does seem consistently there's this air of like, no, you can't say that. Like, no, you can't say that. So I'm wondering if that's the case.
Yeah.
It's super interesting that you asked because I think one of the more interesting world building parts of that scene for me is the fact that yeah, Hadrian can I can't remember if they said he speaks it fluently, but he can speak the Cielsen language or a good majority of it.
Hmm.
So like to me, that's really interesting. Like how long have they been around? It just has me thinking more like, are they actually bad? We haven't really learned anything about them. Like, is it just you know, just this empire just trying to paint the picture that they're bad, right?
Yeah.
Um, I loved what you just said, Ian. That I feel like that was really insightful. So really, I wasn't sharp enough to kind of think of those things, but I more was just picking up on that. I think he already didn't want him there. He thought that he had him occupied elsewhere. He barged in, and then I think no matter what Hadrian would have said in that moment, I think his father was just ready to like show that he's superior to him and ready to just put him down and make him feel worse. That's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of what that's where I was leaning to. But yeah, it is interesting thinking about like he's actually playing like the scared, like no, 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 we don't say that. Like
Yeah,
we gotta
that makes
censor
a
what my
lot of
son says.
sense, especially with the visitors that he had there. Yeah, that was cool to hear from you.
We also learned that the Cielsen, according to the Empire, eat other people and themselves, and each other, not themselves.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't eat themselves, but
no, that part was actually kind of funny because because
Yeah,
he's like, no, actually, technically they're not cannibals
yeah,
because they only eat other people. And then the narrator's like, actually, I was wrong.
yeah,
Cannibals.
yeah,
yeah. Little did I know.
yeah. They eat each other as well. So yeah, definitely painted even to us in that moment. I was like, oh yeah, they're the bad guys.
Yeah,
We,
just the barbaric monsters.
yep,
They remind me of the elves from the Devils, which we all just recently finished with.
Yeah,
Because it's kind of the same dynamic. We're like, these are the bad guys, they're coming, and then the people will be like, the Cielsen, the Cielsen. Like, you always say that. Like, we're moving on.
yeah, yeah. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but this was another. I did find that some of the what's happening politically and stuff to be a little confusing. But what I gathered was that the Wong Hopper Consortium was there because they are now the primary uranium miners, and they use that as fuel for space travel, right? And so
Yeah,
what I can't remember what exactly were
both.
what they're asking for, just making a deal with them now, or like okay.
They're both. It's both for fuel and for weapons. So,
Hmm.
which again, that's another thing from Dune. Because it always like for sci-fi can feel a little bit weird just depending on what's going on in the sci-fi. And I would say it's probably less weird in Sun Eater than it was in Dune. Because like in Dune, there was this whole thing where like everybody wanted nukes, but then they like could literally glass planets with plasma. So it's like I feel like the glassing of the planet is like much more powerful than the nuke, but yet the nukes are always really important. Whereas like in Sun Eater, they're like no, like that we shoot guns with like projectiles, like the kind of guns that we have now. Like they shoot those, right? So it's like their weaponry is it's not like that scale. But in like Dune, every family had a personal armament of uranium, which or nukes, and that was like as long as you held on to that, right? If anybody could ever get that from you, you were basically toast. And so that's how like they maintain a power balance between the families. But yeah, but it's also like the way that they supply their ships for travel. So it's extremely important. And I think the consortium is kind of responsible for making sure that uranium gets into the hands of certain people because they're talking about like, oh, we need to supply these people with nukes. And then Alistair is like, they have nukes. It's just he's like correcting them in different spots. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that I found myself still catching up with like we had just learned about the mining guild, and I was like, all right, the mining guild, and there's like now there's the Wong Hopper Consortium, and they're here as well, and then we learn about like the other planet that got killed, and I found myself a little bit confused, but essentially they're just there on behalf of the Emperor, I'm assuming, as like just signing a contract, basically saying that they're gonna do that. And then, so Hadrian and the dad talk later. And I think this is just, he's pissed off at how Hadrian handled the mining guild talk and was like, no, and he tells him why. And I can't exactly remember, but he's like, something along the lines of like, do you know how much one of those things costs? And like, it's not like, we're not the top of the chain. We have to answer to people too. And like, we can't just give them this because then they'll want more. And so on and so forth. They'll rebel or unionize or whatever. So unhappy with Hadrian all around. Did nothing right. Nothing he does is right.
Yeah.
And
We
then
get. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say I can't remember if it's his dad, to Hadrian, or some other moment in this part where he talks about like the lifespan of the miners and like basically the ROI of like fixing these isn't worth it because like they only live this long, like
Sounds
whatever.
like the
Like it
dad.
was so like cavalier
I say that
with their
sounds like the
lives.
dad for sure.
Yeah, I was just say like that scene, like for that reason, kind of gives you the best insight into the dad's thought process, where like he literally goes into how because the lifespans are so much shorter and like intentionally so, right? They're like tens of years versus
Yeah.
hundreds of years, that they like intentionally will like give them things and then let generations pass and then like take them away and then take generations pass and then like they just like are basically constantly keeping them like on at like net neutral, but they don't know it because they just like don't have any way to keep that memory, and so they just let a few generations pass and then they move on back. And like, what do they care? Because a few generations is only like a sixth of their life, right? So it's just yeah, it just gives you all the insight you need. It just doesn't view them as people.
Yeah. Which is not a good way to run your
Mm.
city.
Yeah.
uh,
But
yeah,
the
go ahead.
sorry, I know I'm probably talking too much, but I did find one thing really fascinating because there's a contradiction here, which was really interesting, which is like the miners need this equipment, and like part of the reason I got so pissed at Hadrian was because some of the more advanced equipment was really expensive, and that was always like that's maybe his plan with the Chantry, because the crux of the issue for Alistair is that in order to increase his mining efficiency of uranium, he needs specialized equipment, but they can't produce it on planet. Now the Wang Hopper Consortium can get that equipment for him. So that's also part of the reason why that deal is so important, because they just can't make this equipment. But the Chantry monitors the sale of that equipment. And like essentially if you request too much, not only are they super expensive, but it will flag them with the Chantry. Where the Chantry will be like, why are you trying to get so much of this? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
And like they kind of say a little bit of like it's perhaps because of like their particular religion, and they view these machines as necessary but like potentially still AI. But either way, the point that's kind of interesting is like because they've lost this world to the Cielsen, they now need him to step up and his colony to step up to produce more uranium. But then the reason why they can't step up and produce more uranium is because they can't get the equipment, and they can't get the equipment because of the Empire and the Chantry's rules. And so it's just like this really interesting way in which the bureaucracy is like killing itself.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, just before we move on to the next, like, because that's kind of like this little section is capped off with that talk. I really appreciate. To me, it's like, I mean, I think you like dove deep and I think have intuited a lot of things, which not everyone does, including myself. But like, I think that I appreciate the way that Ruocchio went about it, to where I still got the general gist of what I needed to know without him saying, all right, there's an empire, and in this empire there's this and this and this and this and this, and like especially on like the front loading, like we just got to experience it from heart, and Hadrian probably also doesn't understand all of that fully yet. So it does feel like we're naturally getting it from his point of view of just like the messiness of the politics, which I really appreciated, because it was still overwhelming, but I don't feel like I have no idea what's going on. But
Well said.
yeah. So next is the big Colosso scene, in which they go to the Colosseum. They witness a reenactment of the devils. That's what they're called, right? The devils. Reenacting this fight that they were supposed to lose against the Cielsen, and then Hadrian is just like, I'm gonna leave. I don't like this stuff. And then he gets jumped by a motorcycle gang, which
Of teenagers.
yeah, of teenagers. It felt very like they're like walking down the alley, like snapping, like old outdated tech, like a chopper to me. I don't know. It felt a little goofy to me, that scene. But
Also crazy that they didn't like recognize him either.
yeah,
For
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
Hadrian's family supposed to be like so powerful, but I think it just paints some of what we touched on earlier, right? Like there's information, but people aren't really able to like access it like we can and like
mm-hmm.
stay up to date on who is this
Yeah.
person or that person. So I thought that was more interesting, like world building.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like
And the
street rats. Like they
yeah.
don't care. They just want to mug the next person they see that they think has some value. And once they do see his signet ring, they're like, "Fuck, we fucked up."
Mhm.
Yep.
And they did, in fact, fuck up.
Yeah. Yep.
After
Well,
they
After
what do you
they
say?
beat his ass.
They got that though, at least I guess, you know.
I guess
But
they're
I
dying
guess.
weapons. Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing that again, this might be kind of me intuiting a little bit more, but I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but it seemed to be what he was trying to, like the author was trying to convey to us is Alistair wears his hair long, and Hadrian does the same thing. Crispin doesn't, but Hadrian does, like his father. But it seems like that is extremely abnormal for
Mm.
like for the
Yeah.
Palatines. So I also wondered like if that was maybe part of it was like they just assumed that he couldn't possibly be that important because if he was, he would look a lot more like the other nobles and the Palatines do. But like he looks very different. And as far as it seems, it's like basically him and his dad are like the only people who wear their hair long, as far as I can tell. But I wasn't sure if like that was being factored in or anything else. But like he made a point to say that like he doesn't look like a Palatine because he wears his hair long.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah. Does anyone want to talk about? I found the Colosseum battle really interesting. Of like, yeah, it just feels like this is what the family or whatever the power and the planet Alistair uses to like be like, you should love us. Look. Here's this reenactment. Like, yeah, pride, like pride and country and
Yeah. And entertainment and death.
in death. Yeah, and then to have it seems like traditionally, then Crispin goes down to duel, which he's
Yeah.
been like training for, and like yeah. Another thing I thought it was awesome is like we don't get to see the duel, and I really like that we don't get to see the duel, but it seemingly went well. They're like chanting Crispin, I think, as he leaves.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he wakes up. Unless anyone else wants to talk about anything else from the gang and the Colosseum.
Homie just wanted to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Come on.
For a walk, yeah.
I get
Well,
it.
and I do. I mean, I did wonder during the scene because he even says like, "Who sent you?" and his QRF like didn't come in. Like they took a long
Yeah, because
time
he
to
like
get there.
presses his signal
Yeah,
button or
multiple
something.
times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I know that he technically went off by himself, but at the same time, like they presumably could get there really quickly, and they didn't.
Yeah. I like what you're getting at because, like, also he left. It seems like if they genuinely wanted to keep him safe, there wasn't like his father being like, just let it happen. I feel like someone would have followed him at least or kept tabs on him or something.
Yeah. So I did find that interesting. I mean, at the same time, it doesn't seem like it serves his father's role.
Yeah, because he wants him to go to the chantry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it might be a situation where like, you know, maybe it'll come up later. I don't know. But like, I still am not sure. I haven't decided yet whether or not that was orchestrated or just happenstance. But yeah, I did find that
I think I
interesting.
lean happenstance, but I think he obviously uses it
Mhm.
for sure as the like inciting incident of like, you go into the chantry. Like, yeah.
You're done.
You're done. Yeah. So Hadrian, he wakes up in his hospital bed, getting this like, we get to see a little bit of the cool technology of these needles, like reconstructing his wrist or arm, I can't remember, and like his ribs
Yeah.
or something like that. Because he was like,
His brain.
his brain, yeah, he was in a bad place.
Yeah.
Like it was like near death, right?
Mhm.
And the whole time he's there, Dad doesn't show up once. But
wasn't
Gibson does.
there.
Yeah. Gibson does.
Yeah, Gibson's like at his bedside, right?
Gibson's
Like
at his bedside, and he
the whole
has
time.
a pretty dark premonition in those moments of Gibson with his nostril cut, which is yeah, I thought that was really cool, because we had already known at this point that they cut the nostrils of criminals, and so he sees that in like a nightmare of Gibson getting his nostril cut. So again, it's just like a nice little like you plant this seed for us of like, well, this is not, whatever is about to happen is not going to go well for Hadrian.
Did it mention that one of the kids that jumped him also had their nostrils cut?
Yeah,
So
I think they were.
I think that was interesting too.
Yeah, they were full on like thugs.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then he wakes up. He's good. He's back to normal. And then yeah, that's basically when he talks to Dad. And Dad's just like, "You suck. You're going to the Chantry. You can't do anything right. You're going to the Chantry. So specifically, I wrote down it's a place called Lorica College on the planet of Vesperad, Vesperpad. I may have written it down wrong. Which, we know obviously he's not going there now at the end of the part. So I don't know if that will be relevant or not, but it seems like it is like a college where they send people to study and learn how to be in the Chantry, which I think at this point Hadrian also tells us that it's at this point he's like, I know I'm not going to, I don't think the dad ever says outright, you are not going to be the heir, but like this basically seals the deal. And I think Hadrian, another cool like technology or just world building that gets planted for us is he's like, wow, so if I go there, it's going to take X amount of years, and when I get out of cryo or whatever they call it, Crispin's going to be older than me. Like he'll be like a full on, 10 years older than me as the heir, which is cool. I don't know. It's cool that they're going to play with that, the aging and stuff.
I agree. I was trying to think like of all the sci-fi I've watched, I don't recall like a scenario where I know I've seen Cryo, but I don't remember there being like a play on like them waking up younger than someone else. So I thought that was really cool to hear too.
Yeah. It makes sense too, yeah, but I agree. It's in Hyperion a bit, and there's it's not cryo, but there's some of that general gist in Interstellar.
You're right.
But it's not cryo. It's just from something, just like the way that time works in the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I definitely hope that they keep playing around with that theme overall, because for the world building, it is a very, very cool aspect. And it definitely plays in with a lot of the other themes. Like one of the things I was thinking about when they were talking about the 11 years was the fact that even though Crispin would be technically the older brother at that point, I mean, they're still both relatively young, like even by standard human years, but for their then they may live to be like well over 1,000 years. I mean, it's even sort of implied again and again that Gibson might be like 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so isn't it kind of interesting, like at least it was to me, that like if you were not a Palatine, if you were just just another civilian who lives 60 to 80 years, if you were to go into cryo, you would basically never see any of your friends or family again. There would not be enough time in your life or their lives for you to recoup that. And so like leaving, like for example, the people that he is going to be leaving with at the end of the first part, I mean, they basically have to dedicate their whole lives to this, because everybody that they know and love outside of that context, like they will never see them again. Whereas like for these Palatines, it doesn't matter. Like 11 years go by, yeah, Crispin will be older, but like in the grand scheme of things, if they're going to live 1,000 years, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so it's just like another way in which they can separate themselves and rule longer over these like logistical problems that they have to face, and how they've like genetically engineered themselves to be superior in this kind of empire that they live in.
I think it's going to be really the only person that I am curious to see how, if it affects, if we ever see them again, is Kyra. Because Kyra is not a Palpatine. I mean a Palatine. And and they obviously have a very interesting, I'm not going to call it a relationship, but just whatever we want to call it. Which, by the way, that we'll get to that in my likes, but really like the way they handle Kyra in this whole part. But so real quick, just to touch in, we're at an hour, so maybe we'll push through here. So then Hadrian is like to himself, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to go be a scholiast. Which, by the way, we kind of talked about the Chantry a little bit, which, from my understanding, I kind of want to talk about the Chantry and the scholiast because they're very different. So scholiast, from what I gathered, let me go to my notes. It seems like they are very, scholiast. They're basically scholars. They're academics who show no emotion, and they don't use technology. It may seem like they don't use technology at all.
Not really. They're kind of meant to be like a human computer.
Okay.
Because technology, like, there's a lot of aspects of technology that they're very afraid of, and so they like basically rely on these people to basically be their knowledge, be their educators, be their computers, and to have like pretty extensive memories. And so I don't know if it's so much like they aren't using technology because they're afraid of it or afraid of what it might become, but it's like essentially a dual prong of like they don't want it to become a crutch.
Yeah.
And then secondly, there is some fear of that they may have in the past been the ones who created the AI, or that they might be able to create new AI. And so it's like there's always this fear that they are the ones who would like bring about a second apocalypse kind of thing.
Yeah. So very just the antithesis of what a lot of people in this world are just with using technology and stuff. But then the Chantry, at some point there's a conversation that it implied that the Earth their belief is that the Earth is Jesus, basically. The Earth basically sacrificed itself so that humanity would then go out and explore the universe, and that one day it will return, which is to save humanity, which is wild. like wild. I was just like, wait a minute, what did I just read? Is this like Earth Jesus? Like, it's Earth Jesus. So yeah, that's the Chantry, but then also like not super good guy church. Seems like they are like maybe abuse their power
Devils.
a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like in the Devils. So with that being said, that I just found it important that we kind of differentiate those two, because the Chantry is where he is being told he's going to go to become part of the Inquisition, but instead he wants to follow in Tor Gibson's footsteps and become a scholiast, and so he now needs to create a plan to do that in secret, because he's going to sneak off or be snuck off the planet. You can't become a scholiast without the written word of a current scholiast. So he then he needs to get a plan in place. So the first person he meets with is Lena Bellum, the mining guild. And in order to acquire some money, because in the Chantry you can bring, like, I think they said like one chest of your personal belongings. You basically do nothing. It's almost like a monk situation. Like, give up all of your
It is. Yeah, you are
possessions.
a monk.
Yeah. So he goes to Lena Belena. Let me go back to my notes here. And yeah, so he basically makes a plan with her, saying like, hey, what's one thing my dad can't fight against? Charity. He's not going to go out and say like, no, you're not going to publicly take back charity, because it would look terrible. So he says, look, I'll give you the money you need for your mining equipment. You need X amount of dollars. I know they're not dollars, but I'm going to call them dollars. You need X amount of dollars. I'll give you that. But also I'm going to give you 10,000 more of that. And then you're going to write me a check back for that $10,000. And we're going to keep that part of it secret. So that he's basically laundering, money. So he's got some money to help him escape, which she agrees to. I think.
Yeah, because he kind of strong arms her into doing it.
Yeah, but I also think she seems like kind of like the head of a union, right? I think it is for the good of her. People are dying, and it's like if this prince wants to launder a little bit of money, whatever, we for the good of my people, I'm gonna take it. But she does seem like at first she's like, I see what you're doing here. Like, you're not tricking me or anything.
I think it's like kind of like the implication. It's like, I will take the charity and the generosity and I'll put it to goodwill, but like you are potentially implicating me in something very dangerous. And you don't tell me what it is because you're asking me to launder money, and why does a rich person need to launder money?
Yep.
And so.
Yep. And I think that's how Hadrian is just like, well, that's why I know. I mean, to himself, he's like, that's why I know you won't say anything, because then you'll be out to my dad, and that's going to be bad news for you.
Mm-hmm.
So then on the way back to the palace or something, so Kyra, who is his like lieutenant, I think, or basically the pilot of his like personal ship, he feels like there is something between them. And this is one of my favorite parts of the book, because I was like, oh, here we go. Here comes the romance, and he kisses her, and her reaction was like, mwah, oh, it was so good. I mean, it was horrifying, but like it was very right on to exactly what I want it to be. Where she's just like grossed out a little bit, and just immediately it's just like, well, if my Lord wants me to do it, then I will do it. It's just like, oh, it hurts. It like hurt to read that she was just like, that's just the way things are, which is gross. And then on top of that, Hadrian's reaction was great too. You're just like, thank God. He's just like, no, 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 no. Like he feels horrible, and like, and then they just let it go. And I really like that because that could have gone a very different way, and I'm very glad it didn't. It could have gone a lot of different ways, and all of them worse probably than the way it did. But I just felt like that was a really well written part by Christopher Ruocchio, and just real. I don't know. It really just her reaction says so much about the politics and just the status of the classes in their society. So I really
really interesting learning for Hadrian too, right? Because it didn't seem that he had any ill intentions. Like it just seemed like an innocent like feelings for her, and then him going like, wow, basically like realizing like in the position I am here in this palace or wherever I am, like no one's gonna really like me for who I am, which sucks for him, but like also cool to see as his character, like to realize that and
Yeah.
learn from it.
Yeah, I agree. So afterwards, Hadrian meets Gibson on the beach. They're having some pina coladas. They're walking barefoot in the sand. But really, this is when Hadrian and Gibson kind of create the plan to have him join the Scholiast. And it is a big moment because Hadrian reveals what he wants to Gibson. And this is, it's very much like if they get caught, it is, nothing worse really can happen. But Gibson agrees. And I think it is really like, I think they say it a few times, or Hadrian says it a few times, like Gibson is his father. Like he's the real like, you know what I mean? Like he's the father figure. And I think Gibson wants what's best, probably. I mean, I don't think Gibson thinks the Chantry is what's best for Hadrian. And I think he just, like any dad, wants what his son wants. And so he's willing to put his reputation and life on the line to write Hadrian this note. And so he gives him this book called The King with 10,000 Eyes, which I'm sure there's some deeper references here or something. I don't know what they are, but I did write it down in case it was like, I don't know. But any thoughts
I think
on that?
the reference, because I think Hadrian actually says what the reference is.
Okay, yeah.
Is it's meant to be, because he puts the letter inside the book, and so the title is meant to be indicative of the fact that Hadrian should never forget that he's constantly being watched, and so he needs to be very careful with the contents of what's inside the book.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what Hadrian kind of interprets at the time. Is like it's the reminder that you're always being watched.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So then they part ways. And the next time, I think it's literally the next chapter, things go bad. Hadrian's walking back around the palace, and there's this big crowd gathering on like this stage in which Gibson is brought out, declared basically a traitor by the king. Hadrian tries to stop it, but Dad knows he's there, and he's going to make him watch. And they basically whip Gibson, cut his nostril, declaring him a criminal. And I think Hadrian at that point realizes his plan has failed. They found the book that he has stashed away. They found the book. They found the note. He's done. I mean, he's going to have to go to the Chantry now. Plan over. Sad boy Hadrian's back, baby. We got like one chapter without him. But it is a pretty graphic scene and a sad scene. And it's just one of those like, it's a little bit of a cliche scene with like the father figure and like the son or the child in the crowd, like, no. And the father figure just like looks to them and it's just like, no, it's okay. It's okay. And then horrible things are happening to him. And like, it's a little cliche, but I think it was handled really well. And it sucked because I like Gibson.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I kept thinking about during that time was Gibson served not only Hadrian and Crispin, but he also served Alistair, and he served for Alistair's father, which also speaks to like how old he is. but he tutored Alistair when Alistair was a child. And
Which
so it makes me think like, what was that like?
yeah. I think that's really the reason why he's not killed. I think that's why he's not executed, because I do think Alistair, I think he has to make an example, but I think there are some probably good I think he probably cares for him, and if it were anyone else, I think they'd be executed. Maybe not publicly, but I think I think that's the sole reason why Gibson lived through that, which hopefully he does. I don't think I think this is the very last time we see him, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And
for now.
Oh, does he get exiled? Actually, I think he gets exiled off world.
He is exiled, but I don't think that we get to see him again.
No,
because at least the narrator says like this is the last time I ever get to see him.
Yeah, and it was off world specifically, right? That he gets exiled.
Yeah, yeah, and his dad even made sure that like Hadrian couldn't track him. He got tickets for him and put him on the manifest of like 8 different flights going in different directions. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so like he made sure like nobody could actually know what the real one is except for like the guards on the day of, basically. Because his mother tries to track him. And we also do find from the mother later, that it actually wasn't Gibson that gave them away, but actually it was unraveled from the other end, that the person Gibson contacted wasn't as careful.
Yep.
But it's still like that scene did make me think a lot about like Gibson's relationship with Alistair, because there's also something earlier that was brought up. Like clearly Alistair does not have the same gift for languages that Hadrian does. Mm-hmm. And also I think Hadrian takes after his mom a lot more, and Gibson more appreciates that, the kind of personality that Hadrian has, and then like what Alistair or Crispin have. But there's this point where Alistair realizes that it was Gibson who told Hadrian about the meeting with the consortium, but he didn't actually know for sure because they were speaking in different languages. Mm-hmm. And so, but like, it just made me think that like, that was probably the kind of thing that Gibson would do with Alistair when Alistair was a boy. They probably, as a tutor, they probably had in these kind of interactions, or had similar kind of interactions, where Alistair could probably intuit like, oh, that was, Gibson is like taking a fondness for Hadrian. They're speaking different languages. That's something that Gibson would sometimes do with me when he didn't want the servants to hear, or didn't want my dad to hear. And like, oh, I probably wasn't very good at it, but like, that's probably what's happening here. And so I bet there are ways in which like Alistair is using the fact that Gibson raised him to like, deduce things about this relationship.
Yeah. And I think he even like goes along with it, because he's like, we've got audio. He obviously gets caught, and we think it's because the book is found, and like Hadrian's trying to like yell like, no, like it didn't. And he's like, yep. He doesn't say I like wrote the book or whatever. He just says like I was working with Hadrian, or he admits to fault, but in a lying way, and we don't really know why at that point. But then so basically the rest of this part, there's two more like major scenes basically. So Hadrian and Crispin go to the mom's estate, where she meets with her ladies, and basically gets away from Alistair, because I mean, who wouldn't want to? And so they go there so he can see his mom one last time before he gets shipped off to the Chantry, in which Crispin and Hadrian have a fight because they're brothers, and Hadrian's mad, and I can't remember. I think Crispin's like talking shit at some point. He's like he's stirring him up, right? But then Hadrian knocks him out, and then the mom comes back, because the mom's like not even there the whole time, and Hadrian's like, are you kidding me?
He's like there for 2 weeks, and she shows up the last couple days or something.
Yeah, it's just like, man, his parents suck. But then we find out it's because she has been working to get him a ship to take him off world to join the Scholiast, working with a Days Fang, which is who was part of the Wong Hopper Consortium, which was a pretty interesting. Seems like there's going to be some consequences there. Just, I don't know. Just seems like a interesting threading. It seems like they also have a relationship, a Days Fang and Lady Liliana. So it could just be that.
A relationship?
Yeah, they banging. But so it could just be that. Or it could be more, but that is interesting that she, leading that consortium, has that information just going forward. But yeah, so, turns out mom is a good guy and wants what's best for her son, like a good parent should. And
She don't care what daddy thinks or wants.
she don't care what
She
daddy
gonna do
thinks
what
or
she
wants.
wants.
And she doesn't care about Crispin either. So she tells Hadrian, "You're my favorite." And then basically, yeah, we find out that it wasn't Gibson. It wasn't the book that was found out. It was just the communications on the other side. And that she has the book. She gives him the book. And so the book is good. He's got the note. He's ready to join the school, yes. And then Kyra shows up and it's just like, I'm working for him too. And which was good. I liked that. And then again, I was like, uh-oh. Come on, we surely can't go to a romance here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I've just been burned in other stories to where
I was nervous too because the earlier part just made me so uncomfortable, and I was like, "Oh, not again."
Yeah, which where we end it. So she escorts him to this ship, and the free trader. So they're like basically they're not pirates, but they're like it's basically
They sound like it.
Yeah, it's like a Han
Smugglers.
Solo.
Their tone feels very much like it.
Yeah,
they're smugglers.
They're smugglers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, because I don't know that they're like pirates in the sense that they're like actually going after other people to like salvage off of other people. But
there is a
they're
group like that, right? The
there are
Solarians, I think, is what they call them. They're like the pirates.
Yeah, this is basically like the Firefly crew. Like they do illegal salvages, they smuggle, right?
Smugglers was the right word for sure.
And so he and Kyra have their parting words. In theory, we'll never see her again, but she like stays too long, and so I'm like worried about what's gonna happen with her. I don't think it's the last time we see her, and I still don't know if there's not gonna be a romance between them. Until like she dies or whatever, I could see him coming back. It's only a 10-year journey. We don't really know how old. I think she's like about the same age, so there'll be an age gap. But I don't know. I hope not. But basically, she goes back and she's just gonna have to keep that secret as well. So there's a lot of people that need to keep quiet here. But then he meets the crew of the Uraniser. I don't know how they say it in the audiobook. Uraniser.
I don't even remember.
Uraniser. It's EURANYSIR. So I just said Uraniser.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close. It's good. Yeah, I didn't pay that close attention to the actual name of the ship.
They only say it like once or twice. I only notice it because it's like italicized in the text. But so he meets the crew run by Jadians. Is that how they say that? Jadians. And they are going to take him on passage to Tukros, where he's going to study to become a scholiast. It's going to take 13 years. And so
they're taking a detour.
They're taking it to drop off the two twins or something, right?
Yeah, and to pick up and to sell and to buy supplies.
Okay.
So they to basically earn additional keep.
Yeah,
and fix it and do repairs on the ship and stuff.
Yeah, and so the part we'll talk about the crew here in a second, but the part ends with him getting into cryo, or what I think they call it a creche, and yeah, I mean fade to black. I mean it really was like it
literally
perfect ending to the part.
And when I awoke, my world had ended.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Holy shit! What a good accident for me to pick that part."
We're 1 for 1. We're 1 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's gonna be so bad the rest of the way.
Yeah. I would love to. We got about 10 minutes left till we hit our hour and a half. So I want to talk about the crew because I love the crew of this ship. I'm hyped going forward because like I like the other characters too, but like this, like we got more because we had heard about like the homunculi, but like I love this homunculus guy. I'm trying to let me go to their names because I wrote them down. So we got Dimitri and his wife Juno. Then we got Bassam, who's like the pilot, or like
they call him Dassam, I think, in the book. Maybe it was Bassam.
It's with a B, so it's probably Bassam.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarek, who's like their medic, and then Saltus. Saltus is the homunculus, who's just like no filter, just like a chaotic. I don't know. I'm excited to see more of Saltus. And then there's the two twins in cryo, but I really like this crew, and I'm excited to. I hope it's not just like, and then we dropped them off.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about now that you're saying that.
But
my prediction is like, we'll go into that in a second, but like, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
even
think him awaking is not going to be 13 years later.
no, yeah. But yeah, I thought all the crew, like, even if we don't see them again, I think it's really impressive how he wrote these. In could be that's the most we get of them. I feel like they were fleshed out characters. I'm excited to see more of them. They have fun personalities. He definitely has like a Han Solo vibe, Demetrius, and
Yeah.
yeah. So we also get to kind of see how the cryo works, which is interesting, and we also learned that they're all going into cryo. They're just putting him in first, and then they're going to go on a autopilot basically, and just everyone's in. I don't think a single person stays out. But yeah, any thoughts or anything else about that before we wrap up the part?
Overall, I mean, I thought, like you said, I thought it was just great, and it just continues. The main thing that like really struck me was, and one of the things I really loved about this was it wasn't so much about like building out the world more, but just it solidified what we had already seen when you think about it, right? Like the fact that the captain's wife is with them on the journey, like further solidifies that idea that space travel is very long. Like if you want to be able to have any kind of relationship or like be able to maintain a marriage, you have to do it together because you'll just be spending literally decades apart otherwise.
Yeah.
The homunculi being there, like being like, take bros, take bros.
He talks about his little cock.
Yeah.
I was like, I like this guy. I like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. The only two other homunculi, the first one, the homunculi we heard about was the one that instigated the genocide, if I'm not mistaken. It was given to his grandfather, maybe it was an uncle, I can't remember, but it was a gift. And then she strangled him to death in lovemaking. I think that's what like triggered the whole genocide.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was the first time we heard about homunculi.
That's funny.
And then the second time we heard about the homunculi, which may have triggered the first time, was at Gibson's scourging
Yeah,
when
he
he was
kinda
like
announces it,
the
right?
announcers, yeah. And they're like, that's basically what we use these things for: murderous sex assassins
Yeah.
and announcing scourgings.
Just like
Dude,
who are I just want to know more about them. Are they
Yeah.
like created? Are they like a race? They're so few and far between. Like, what are these things?
Yeah,
But I
they're
like 'em.
essentially the robots of the world because they can't have robots because they're afraid of AI.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that's what their
Looks
genetic
like an
robot.
alien. But are they made? Do we know
Yeah,
if they're
they're
made?
made.
Oh, okay. So they're not like an alien.
They're grown in
species.
tanks like you grow an organ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay,
So-
Jones, any other thoughts on that? Oh, I did want to say something. If you after you, if there's anything else you want to say. No,
Go for it.
I just thought it was cool. Really, this is the first time we leave the world, and it felt like his experience, like it's his first time leaving the world too, and it felt you almost like I feel like he did a great job of writing that like wonder. It almost felt like a like an amusement park ride to me or something like that, where just like the coolness of lifting off and like the shutters close and he feels the gravity come in and the shutters open, like the world's zoomed out, like they're lifted off, and like just like I imagine when the doors close and you just kind of like feel that rumbling. And I don't know, I just thought it was a cool, like I felt like I was like, yeah, we're leaving, we're out of here. It wasn't just like, and then we took off.
I was disappointed in myself for being ahead of my reading for this part because I've been dying to continue. So I thought it was a really I love how you're nailing like the feeling that I was there and I was excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, awesome. Well, cool. That's where we left off.
I want to say one more thing
Yeah,
real quick. So um I didn't come up with this, but I can't remember where I kind of first heard about it, but the first line of any book and just it's always like an author's like attempt to like hook you right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of the more exciting like ones. So I was just having fun going back and look at it tonight because I hadn't looked at it since then. It just starts out light. The light of that murdered sun still burns me.
Mm.
And then reading the back
hook
of
ya.
what this story is about, it's got me hyped to keep going. I'm
Nice.
excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I love. A good first sentence. I think Dartau will never be topped for me, but this was a good one. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it tells you so much, and you're just like, wait, what? Like, and then he's like, and now I'm going to tell you the whole story. And you're like, what?
Yeah. And I felt like I was laying in bed like Princess Bride, and
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
Grandpa
yeah.
Hadrian's reading to me.
Yeah. Well, cool.
If they're
Let's
gonna be
go.
kissing in
No
this
more
book,
writing, and
Yeah.
I need it.
So let's talk about if everyone's good to go. We're at 124. Everyone good to go for a little longer. So we got likes and dislikes, and then we got predictions. So likes and dislikes. Does anyone want to kick us off? We'll do all of our likes first, and then we'll do all of our dislikes if there are any. They want to kick us off with the likes. If you don't have to say anything, if it's just I jotted some stuff down, but you know, don't feel obligated to have any specifics.
Go for
or
it.
anything.
It might trigger some memories for me to give some thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote down a couple. So my likes, I put that was loving the world building and especially the politics. It's crazy because like my whole life I grew up thinking like I hate politics, and I think it's because I hate like U.S. politics. But like in fantasy and now sci-fi, I'm like I like it better than like battles, like just political intrigue. I'm hooked. And I think he's doing it really well, the politics, and then just general world building, I think he handled really well. I put that I love how the science isn't super hard science. I think that's just a personal preference. Like, if we went into detail on all the stuff, I think it would take away a little bit for me, which, maybe we will. But it just seems like he's just going to kind of give us what we need to get by, and that's enough. I think his prose is excellent, and I think the character work is great, specifically Hadrian. But some other characters too. I mean, like I think Kyra, that scene really showed a lot of character work, and by doing a very little. I think Dimitri and them, I feel like I know their personalities. I think some of the characters are one note, but I still feel like I know them. So they're not as interesting to me like Lord Alistair, but I think he's well written. So yeah, I think his character work is good. So those are my likes. Not being too specific.
Yeah, and again, like there's obviously a lot of Dune influences and things you can intuit just having read Dune, and I'm pretty sure that the author was pretty open about the fact that like he loves Dune and was a big inspiration. But I'm still really enjoying the world building. There were definitely several chapters where I was asking myself how will this differentiate, but I feel like it differentiated itself pretty well, and certainly a different kind of story, even if there are similarities. But it's been really fun kind of seeing how the world's been building out and how everything's kind of coming together. And I feel like this is one of the problems that I feel like I can run into with sci-fi, especially like space menageries, is just like it can just feel like it just explodes. Like there's just way too much. Like all of a sudden it's all these worlds and all these races and all these languages, and like it does feel like he's keeping it pretty tight. I mean the kind of the most we've glimpsed into that is just the fact that Hadrian knows lots of languages. But like we've kept it pretty tight on the slice of Hadrian's life that we need to know about, and I really appreciate that. And the frame narrative, again, I haven't had much experience with that, but again, the book would have been written different if it wasn't a frame narrative. But like if you take the narrator out, this book is very different, and I don't think it would be that good. Granted, again, it would have been written differently if it didn't have the frame narrative, but I really like the framed narrative aspect, like having the narrator who can provide that insight and just kind of continue to remind us that there is a trajectory here and that there's a very different person that Hadrian will become. I'm really enjoying it, and I've consistently enjoyed every time the narrator stepped in, versus where it might come off as like a distraction, right? Now, granted, I don't know the narrator is telling us the truth, because like I don't think that should be taken for granted.
Certainly some bias in the whole story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, interesting in itself.
Yeah, and so like there could be an element of like he's misleading us intentionally or otherwise, but like, for the most part, it's been pretty genuine, and I'm really enjoying the aspect of it.
Awesome. How about you, Jonesy?
I don't know if I have anything different to say.
Yeah, that's okay.
I feel like I've enjoyed everything you guys have said. Yeah, I think just to kind of echo some thoughts earlier, I'm just really enjoying knowing that we've kind of like got this gigantic piece of history of how Hadrian's known, and then now we're starting from his 19, 20-year-old self and seeing how we get to that point. Just has me really intrigued and wanting to keep reading and learning about it. So yeah,
Awesome. You want to kick off the hate train?
I don't
Do you
know
have
if
anything?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have anything until maybe the end of the book.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. How about you, Ian?
Um, I don't think I really have that much in terms of dislikes. I mentioned one earlier on when we kind of talk about, people might mention this as being slow. I do think that it's a lot of, I think that the father is pretty one-dimensional right now, and I feel like you could glaze over a lot of the scenes. In fact, there were those were the scenes where, I might be listening to it and like something's going on with my kids, and I was like, well, I didn't quite catch everything, so maybe I should go back. I was like, I don't think I need to. Like it's pretty clear what this scene is about. But I didn't feel like that at all with a lot of the other scenes with a lot of the other characters. I just kind of felt like that with the dad,
Yeah.
where I was like, yeah, this it's pretty clear like what's going on here. So just again, kind of a one-dimensional character. But that's pretty much been my only dislike. I have things that I'm curious to see what will happen because there's certain things if he leans more into the hard science, then I won't like that very much.
Same.
Like for example, like one of my criticisms with Dune was like it spent too much time, and honestly, a paragraph is too much time explaining how space travel works. Don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
do we just don't need it? And like I
There
kind of
are
just hope
which
that
I sorry to butt in, but like to be fair, I know there are people out there that like love that. And I think that to me, I'm with you, but that is obviously just like a very personal taste. There are people that want, there are people that will read a
yeah,
book and say, "Why isn't this explained?" But I lean to your side where like it's space travel. I get it. Like, I'd rather spend those words and that time learning more about the world or just the characters or whatever. But yeah, that's just personal preference.
yeah, it definitely is. I'm definitely one of those guys that, and we talked about this before as well, sort of outside the videos, but I think of sci-fi um, and the science that drives sci-fi in the same way I think about magic for fantasy is it works better in a book as a soft science. Like it just works better as a soft system, at least for me. That's my personal preference.
Sure.
And so I hope that this continues to be left a mystery. But so far, I like the way the technology works in this world has been great, and it leaves open a lot of mysteries. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Same. I agree with you there. I have two little notes, and like they're not even full dislike. So one is just they're both like borderline things. I think if Hadrian gets more whiny, it's just like it's walking that fine line for me. I think it's reasonable, but I also think I don't want him to become more whiny than like this is almost the most I can take. So that it's just right on the border. And then I did write, which not to throw shade, because like I think, like I said, the prose is a pro for me. It's really well written, but it does at points in time border on pretentious for me. Like it gives off college kid in a philosophy class listening to a lecture and saying, "I'm going to put that in my book because I'm so smart." It sounds so smart, which I obviously I don't know Christopher Ruocchio or anything, and he is clearly a very good author. Like I said, I don't want it to sound that bad because I think the prose is like it's very readable, but in a captivating way. But it's given off those vibes a little bit for me right now, which it's his first book, so I think maybe he'll let the natural flow of his writing kind of take over at a point. But that's if I'm like fishing. Overall, right now, this is like I cannot wait to read more. If it continues like this, it's going to be a very high rating for me. Very pleasant. I hate saying a pleasant surprise, but like the reputation this book has, it's not bad or anything. It's just like I think the Dark Tower, the Gunslinger warrants the first book. Like you do need to get through. It feels so different than the rest of the series. I still think it's good, but
Agreed.
like I feel like you got to get to book 2 where like I I mean this is good. And it's good, and it's I don't know. Same with Malazan. I feel like Dark Tower is separate from these two. But anyways, those are likes and dislikes. Do we want to hit our predictions real quick, or any desires that we have for the next part?
Yeah, so I can kind of kick that off. My prediction is a pretty short list, which is just that I I think that Hadrian is going to be waking up out of cryo sleep sooner. And I think that he's going to be spending a lot more time with his crew. And I don't think that he ultimately makes it to be a scoliast. Like I just don't think that happens. I think something else happens instead. But I think like the kind of my most out there prediction is I think that he essentially gets to do what he wants to do, like be a part of an expeditionary force, just in a different way than he thinks. I don't think he ends up becoming a scoliast who joins in. I think he finds a different route and one that's gonna be setting him up to elevate himself into a position of greater authority. But I don't know if we get to that in this book per se. But I think ultimately we don't make it there to that planet in this book. But
Okay. What about you, Jonesy?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I've thought of so far is that I think him waking up and his world being different isn't going to be because he gets to where he needs to be right now and starts Scoliosis training.
Dude, you look
So,
jacked as hell right now. It's that
oh,
that angle. Your arms are like the proportion. You just look huge. Keep doing what you're doing.
speaking of scoliosis, my scoliosis was making me sore, so that's why I was leaning back.
Oh,
Just
hey,
stupid
it
old
was a
man neck
compliment.
problems.
You look ripped, dude.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I don't want to
Hell
lie
yeah.
to the people though,
It's like the
because
genie,
that's
you know,
that's not
from
me.
Aladdin. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you. I
so
just
I
couldn't look away.
no, you're good. So I think I'm mainly just looking ahead to part two of, yeah, seeing him being woken up. I am very curious how damaged his finger or hand will be from choosing to wear the ring, since that was so
Yeah.
like spoken about. But is it really something to be concerned about since he was able to be fixed up after almost dying? But I thought it was interesting, like how much they like made a point about that,
Yeah.
but like also how much he wants to hold on to it because of what it means and what it has. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, I am very curious about that as well. I think I think I actually lean he does make it, but I feel like you two have convinced me he won't. But I kind of envisioned it like he wakes up, it's been 13 years, like
Mm,
their world is like they are in the thick of a war. Like,
mm,
it's not as like cuz it seems like it's not peaceful times right now, but
yeah,
it's
not
not
like the
like
sheltered area or planet that he's coming from.
yeah, exactly. So I that's kind of where I thought it would be going is like he wakes up and like all this time so much stuff has happened and not good for humanity.
Mm,
Um, so that I think maybe Lady Liliana and Kyra both and or either get caught and punished and or killed for their involvement. Um, I think we're gonna see a Cielson very very soon. And then the last one isn't really a prediction because he tells us, but like I think the Cielson aren't bad. I think they're gonna end up being like they're just different. So therefore, in the Empire's eyes, bad. But really, I think they're just different. But nothing super bold or anything. But I don't know it was a setup part. But
yeah.
I am very excited to see the next part. So
yeah,
yeah, we
my last question on that though is
yeah.
how. What do you guys? Just one question for you guys. Where like yes, no, 0 to 10. Where are you in the fact that it might be much longer than 13 years later now?
Mm,
What
Oh,
do you
like
guys think?
something
Like
goes wrong
like
in the other way, and it's longer
yeah, if
than
something goes
13
wrong
years.
and he's been in there like 20, 30, 50, 100 years.
ah, that's a
Like
really good
yeah.
thought. That like,
Mm,
yeah, maybe
It's
the
not a
crew
strong
gets taken
argument.
over by someone that doesn't know who he's there, and it's other
yeah. So
smugglers, and they
then
just leave him
something
there for
happens
50 to 100 years.
because presumably they were gonna make this detour, right? And he would be in cryo when they make that detour. So like anything could happen, right? Because we just don't know when he wakes up. So I was like, I didn't. My initial reaction wasn't like, oh, it's probably been a really long time. But I'm like, I had to after I was like thinking about, it, I was like, that could have happened. Like it could be like 50 years later or something.
It could. I think I
Yeah.
lean pretty far towards the. I don't think that'll happen just because so much has been set up with the conflict between him and his father. Like I can't. Well, I guess I forgot that like the dad would be older, but they live for a lot longer. But like
Yeah,
I
his
think
dad's only
Kyra's
like
coming back,
300 and
man.
something years. Yeah, it's true. I would say the dad has
Doesn't lean
probably
towards
got
the
like
Kyra
another 600
relationship.
years. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, we gotta vote romance here, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
gotta.
um, yeah, that is a really interesting thought, but I do think I lean towards it's either going to be the 13 or shorter.
Yeah.
But Yeah, very curious. That would be. Yeah, I mean, just those three possibilities, what the world will look like is so. It's just crazy that you can like. It's like a coma, really, but like a crazy coma. Crazy comas. You just
Mm-hmm.
blink and then you wake up and it could be 50 years or whatever. It's just wild.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. We just hit a little over an hour and a half, but I think we did pretty good. Pretty good for our first part. So, any closing thoughts on part one, our unofficial part one of
Well,
Empire of
I just
Silence?
want to do. Can we go ahead and do you have the list of the chapters we'll be reading next? Do you want to go ahead and say those chapters?
I do.
I
It
can buy you some time.
is. The next part will be chapters 22 through 44. 22 through 44, and I guess we didn't say on the front end. So if anyone else, if anyone is still here, I think our plans to generally do every 2 weeks. We will meet for a video, and we'll try and stay fairly consistent. I don't think these books really get that much longer. I think maybe just seeing how this goes, especially if they get shorter, we could even maybe break it into the thirds instead of fourths.
Yeah.
Just we'll play it by ear. But generally around a 2 week period for this. So if
Yeah,
you're
and I
reading
think
along,
the novellas look like they're around 150 to 200 pages, so we'll just do those in one bunch as well,
yeah, Fred
one
say
at a
that up
time.
front too. We are going to be doing the full, mostly full. So we're either going to do the full reading order, which is the novellas and the collections of short stories, as advised by Christopher Ruocchio himself, or we're just going to cut out the short stories. But I think we're planning on doing the novellas either way. We're just going to kind of play it by ear because it does increase it turns it from like a 7-book series into like a 13-book series. So play it by ear. But I think it seems like the novellas are like almost mandatory reading is what I've heard from fans. So I think we are going to do those at least. But yeah, very good first part. If this is the worst, it's going to be, I'm going to say the same thing I said with Malazan. If this is the worst we're getting here, then I think we're in for a treat. And I think this will be a favorite series here going forward. So, and the exciting part is that is going to be finished this year. Like 2 months from now. So we won't be there for the end, but we will, by the time we get to the end, we will be able to read through to completion, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
always
I didn't
fun.
realize it was coming out this year. I was
Yeah.
curious.
Just like every good TV show, we waited for the last one to come out to start the whole thing. So.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to make sure the hype is real.
Exactly.
But all right. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. If you're reading along with us,
Thanks, everyone.
thanks for reading along with us. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. I'm Matt, above me.
I'm Ian.
And to my left.
I'm Jonesy.
And we are
Hobby Bobbin.
Hobby Bobbin.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.